Funding for NEOtropolis has been provided by the following.
Hello, I'm Lester Lefton. Kent State University is proud to sponsor NEOtropolis, a program that looks at the forces that impact the region. Kent State is one of those forces. As a center of educational excellence and as an economic development engine, our efforts at Kent State have a powerful and positive impact on the region through research and development, the arts and innovation, and preparing our graduates to compete in the global marketplace. I hope you enjoy the program, and I invite you to learn more about Kent State University.
The John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, supporting transformational ideas that promote informed and engaged communities.
Hello and welcome to NEOtropolis, the show about the forces of technology, globalization, and diversity, how they impact the way we live, work, learn, and play. I'm Luke Frazier, your host and guide for the NEOtropolis journey. Tonight, water everywhere and how to make sure it's healthy, providing medical supplies overseas and medical rebuilding here at home. And of course, what all of this means to you. Tonight's episode is called Thirsting for Meaning, and we'll have at it in lots of different ways to determine how the forces of technology and globalization impact our physical health. Much of the world is in dire need of medical supplies, and there's a Northeast Ohio organization that repurposes discarded supplies and ships them around the globe. There's also an effort that combines real artistry and design principles with the repair of skulls that have undergone injuries. We're set on a course to improve the world's health, but first, let's make a visit to the Wonderwall. NEOtropolis' Wonderwall is the first stop every week for a question that we want you to answer and comment on in any kind of social media form. Perhaps you can even pose a question yourself or suggest a line of inquiry for tonight's topics. In whatever fashion you choose, please join us. Joining me now is NEOtropolis' social media expert, Kathleen Colin. How are you?
Hi, Luke. Awesome.
Excellent.
Thanks.
What's on the Wonderwall tonight?
Tonight's question is, what's your most important health activity? Seeing your doctor, watching your weight, exercising, getting enough sleep, or just watching reruns of ER?
Of course, it's a combination of all of them, right?
Of course, they all play a part, but we're looking for a sense of your priorities. But additionally, there's no excuse not to take care of your health. Northeast Ohio is a hotbed of medical innovation, even when it comes to social media. Are you one of the 70,000 people who follow the Cleveland Clinic on Facebook? The clinic is an early adapter of social media technology and provides regular healthy updates. Not to be outdone, University Hospitals joined the social media game much more recently and has garnered a mere 7,000, 10% of that Cleveland Clinic number of Facebook fans. What about Suma and Akron? They're at 2,900 Facebook fans right now. That's
incredible. I mean, 70,000 people for the clinic itself?
It's a huge number. They provide tons of information, really helpful information.
Excellent. Well, we'll get people to weigh in on social media to this question to you, and you'll come back later and tell us what we got.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. So let's go ahead and go on to our segment. We're going to share comments on this social media, but we're going to check with Kathleen at the end. Coming up, though, we're going to have to make sure that we have hear from a guy who's going to come from an organization that supplies medical supplies, repurposes medical supplies. But first, a clip from a NEOtropolis Not Business as Usual piece from last season about an effort from a Cuyahoga Falls company to extract clean groundwater without the need for electric power. Instead, they use graphite. Right after that, we'll talk to that group that supplies essential ingredients for global health.
We hear a lot about different types of sustainable energy like solar and wind, but we're at a company here in Cuyahoga Falls, and they're using this pendulum behind me to make Northeast Ohio the center of gravity, and it is definitely not business as usual.
Bruce Feltenberger had a vision decades ago for his current company, Gravitational Energy Corporation.
Back in 1965, as a young man, I visited a planetarium in Pittsburgh where they had a giant pendulum on display. And it was just sort of a scientific display, but it really captured my imagination. And I thought, there might be a way to use something like that to actually produce work. So that's where the idea was born.
The company was formed a few years ago to develop and commercialize this technology that he envisioned, to harness gravity's effects without using a waterfall. The first tangible example of his vision began with this relatively small prototype.
And it's actually the results of this prototype that encouraged us toward moving forward with developing the technology. Gravity-assisted power is a term that we use to describe the effect that our machines produce. But in truth, gravity-assisted power has been around for centuries. Right here in Cuyahoga Falls, we've had waterfalls that at one time, I believe, powered grist mills and then small machine shops and that sort of thing. What our form of gravity-assisted power does is it enables us to be removed from a source of water and still get the benefit of gravity.
A model like this one was actually brought to Haiti after the major earthquake last year to help provide residents with fresh water.
It's very easy to start. It's a little like pushing a child on a swing. It takes a little effort to get it going. And you'll notice that the more you push it, the easier it gets to operate.
The movement of the hand-operated pump determines the speed of the pendulum, which creates the momentum needed to pump water. Up to 1,000 gallons of water per hour. This water can be sent through a filtration system, making it clean enough to drink, or it can be used to irrigate fields. The water can even be turned into electricity to recharge batteries.
So you can recharge batteries for working LED lighting systems or tools, or even golf cart-sized batteries that can be taken back to their huts and power LED lighting systems in their hut.
Our hand-operated pendulum pumps are at least predominantly targeted for third world countries. They don't require electricity, they don't require fuel. It's strictly hand-operated, which means if the sun's not shining, you can still produce drinking water.
Bruce says it feels good knowing his invention is already helping so many people.
It's been a lot of years in the making, and to actually envision a machine, build it, patent it, do all the things necessary to get to a commercial machine and then see that it's doing people a lot of good, it was almost overwhelming. Yeah, I was really thrilled with it.
So there's an example of a businessman, a guy who got really unexpected benefit from commercializing his product. If you want to see the whole piece on Gravitational Energy Corporation, you can find it at NEOtropolis.org. Now let's turn to Matthew Fieldman, Development Director of MedWish International, about the efforts that they're making to improve global health. How are you, Matthew?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So tell me first, what MedWish, what's the mission? Give me the bottom line.
What MedWish does is we recycle medical supplies that would otherwise end up in local landfills. They're surplus, they're no longer needed by healthcare companies and by our hospitals, and instead of letting them end up in local landfills, we send them overseas to countries in need. So last year alone, in 2011, we sent 275 tons of supplies to 59 countries around the world. So it's a small organization. There's only 10 of us, but we have a huge impact worldwide.
Yeah, it really sounds like it. But, you know, the first question that pops to mind, if these are expired or in some way surplus, what does that mean in terms of their quality or how they...
Sure. Yeah. So we can't do expired supplies, unfortunately. No country in the world will take those these days. But what they are supplies that can no longer be used domestically by FDA regulations, insurance liability. It's the old versions of lots of equipment. So what do you do with an old ultrasound machine? Yeah. What do you do with a bed when it's time to replace it? So those fully usable, fully intact supplies are extremely valuable to developing countries.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, these 275,000 tons, is that right?
Yes, 275 tons.
275 tons, and we're seeing some pictures about some of the ways that they're delivered and some of the ways that they're packed on the trucks and they're put out, and a couple of them have, you know, they're put out on a dirt road. I mean, it's like such a juxtaposition.
Absolutely, we have pictures of the stuff going up the mountains on mules and camels, going down the tributaries of the Amazon on canoes. We work in some of the most remote areas in the world. And again, it's the way Cleveland supplies can really make a difference for people who will never get a chance to thank the Clevelanders or Northeast Ohio, but you know, their lives are being saved, their health is being improved by the stuff that we just don't need anymore. Yeah.
Now, is that because, I mean, Cleveland is Northeast Ohio is such a medical hub? I mean, is that part of why this effort's coming out of here?
Absolutely. It's a tremendous place to incubate a nonprofit based on any sort of healthcare, and our hospital systems are tremendous benefactors of MedWish. And also, we had the right person to found it. We were founded by Dr. Lee Ponsky, really out of his garage in 1993, and he just saw the waste and saw that there was tremendous need overseas, and he said there must be a way to bridge this gap, and he started MedWish, and now we're 10 employees.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you hear about garage bands and, people starting small companies in their garage, but you don't think about this is an effort that impacts global health starting out of, a garage, right?
Exactly. And then it really builds on the volunteer efforts of Northeast Ohio. So I think one of the other reasons we've been so successful is that we have such good values in this area, and so we have a tremendous number of churches, other places of worship, civic organizations, schools, companies. They come and they volunteer, and we couldn't do it without them.
Yeah. Tonight's episode called Thirsting for Meaning, we're trying to look at these global issues, the globalization where really medical conditions anywhere affect everywhere. I mean, in terms of like how these processes can run around the globe. And, how does technology then help with addressing these global needs?
That's great. Well, we really pride ourselves on the fact that a doctor in sub-Saharan Africa or in the Amazon basin can get online, get on our website, medwish.org, and order supplies. It's just a very simple online form. They can even pick up the phone if they need to, but they tell us what they need, and that starts the process of getting them the supplies they're looking for. So we leverage technology wherever possible, and we've made our website really a central hub for the supplies. They can look at what we have in the inventory and choose.
How did you get involved with this? I mean, what made you kind of find that this had meaning for you?
So I came to MedWish as a volunteer, actually, working in the warehouse, and I would encourage anyone to come and volunteer. There are 40,000 square feet of medical supplies waiting to be sent overseas. And I saw all of this, and I had this tremendous wow moment. I said, this is an amazing organization. So I kept it on my radar screen, and when the development position opened up, I was the first in line to...
And how can people learn more or get involved with you?
Sure. I would drive them to medwish.org, our website, and we're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for funders. People can donate their individual medical surplus. So if they have crutches lying around their house, wheelchairs, old tubing, anything that isn't expired and isn't an actual pharmaceutical, we can take. So our warehouse is located in Cleveland.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt. Thanks
My
for
pleasure.
joining us. Next up, a learning curve segment on the art and science of skull reconstruction.
Be part of the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at NEOtropolis TV and on Facebook, YouTube, and Google+. When you visit neotropolis.org, check out the archives and sign up for our e-newsletter.
Joining me now is WKSU radio host and reporter Jeff St. Clair to talk about, what are you holding, Jeff?
Well, this is a skull.
Yeah,
it's not a real skull.
Okay. Well, welcome to you and the skull. Okay, but we're going to talk about a company that you reported on that they do things with those skulls. Tell us a little bit about that.
The company's called Osteo Symbionics. It's a Cleveland startup founded by Cindy Brogan at the Magnet Incubator downtown Cleveland, and she saw a need. Because there's been more and more of these surgical procedures called decompressive craniectomy.
Can I say that 3 times fast?
Don't ask me. But it's in English, it's where they take a part of the skull out to relieve the pressure on the brain. Yeah. This is exactly what Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords had. And very similar. This is a skull from an actual patient that this company, Osteo Symbionics, helped.
We also have a couple pictures of some technical, images where it looks like they're really folding and molding it in a certain specific way. And how do they do that?
It starts with a CAT scan, and then they put that into their computer software and create a 3-dimensional replica of the patient's skull so that they can create the implant through artistry. What I thought was interesting about this company is that they hire artists to do this medical device, to create this device.
I mean, and even we have some pictures too about these artistry involved in, what they do with some of the actual skulls in terms of making them pieces of art.
The creativity overflows with this company, but it's a real need. They use computer technology to create the implants. They also have a sculptor on staff who does it the old-fashioned way. And I'll show you here, if when next time, get the camera up here. Yeah. And this is an implant. It's made out of a biocompatible plastics. It's like plexiglass. And this is custom made to fit the skull of the patient. The doctor then screws it in there, and the patients they can have a normal life without having to wear some sort of protective device.
I mean, again, this sense of technology helping us create meaning in our lives, and when someone suffers an injury like this, an intense injury, but now there's a way where they can actually rebuild and bring back to a life, right? I mean, these are people we're talking about,
right? That's what's different with the when you have the imagery of a skull, and these are artists at this company doing this making the medical device, but they're interested in the people themselves, the patients. The skull is a symbol of mortality and also our humanity. Yeah. And when they hold the skull in their hands, when they're making these implants, they realize it's a real person, it's a live person. Yeah. This isn't the
out of the textbook feel, out of this detached lab feel, and really thinking about. I mean, I think we have a couple pictures of people who work at the lab, and they have they're themselves a part of this greater notion of repair, right, and artistry towards repair.
And I think that goes into the extra work that they've done with the skulls, with their creativity. They've done art installation, I guess, objects, made them into art objects themselves. And those are part of the neurosurgeon conference. They made posters out of these, what they call sculptures. David Hudson is the sculptor that I met who works there, and also the lab director, has a degree in art. Yeah. Her name's Lindsay Parker. Yeah. And she graduated from the Cleveland Institute of Art. These people are interested in anatomy and studying the skull and what it says about the individual, and then creating something very useful that will improve someone's life.
Yeah. Tell me quickly, Jeff, before we end, how did you, I mean, what do you see as that human nature around a skull, or those symbols that you see?
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. I mean, it's the seat of our soul and our intellect. Each skull has the characteristics of the face and the person. It's the individual. And rather than as a symbol of mortality, which traditionally has been, even Shakespeare, alas for Yorick.
That's right.
These are living people that they're helping, and I think that creates an extra level of meaning for them. And that's what interests me in the story as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, I should mention that Jeff's work on science and technology for WKSU is part of something called Exploradio, and new pieces are aired every Monday morning. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Right back with Culture Mark. Here now with Dr. Dave Perusik. Dr. Dave, how are you?
I'm fine, Luke. How you doing?
A very good staff anthropologist to explore some of the issues raised today. Again, we're talking about thirsting for meaning. We've looked at this globalization, this global community that we have in dire need of medical supplies, say, or even the technology found and the artistry found in what we just talked about with skull reconstruction. But the broader issue here, I think, is about, altruism and about how we relate to others and others' needs.
Yeah.
Can you give me a snapshot of kind of what the playing field is there?
I think this is really, really rich stuff, and I wish we had a half hour or more.
You always want more time,
I do.
Don't you?
I can't help it. I think too much. It's interesting that meaning is one of the greatest needs, it seems to me, of folks these days. It's part and parcel of modernity that people seem to be on a quest for meaning. At least many people are. Or conversely, folks just feel that something's missing.
That hole we have that we don't know what's going to fill it, or we might fill it with what?
With all sorts of things. Consumer items, goods, cheap, meaningful sex, drugs, alcohol, iPods, iPads, HD TV, all of which are somewhat good things in certain respects.
You want one for Christmas?
The thing is filling the void with things. And the fact is that nothing will do the trick, and that's a great word, nothing. It means no thing. So, what about meaning? In terms of altruism, it reminds me of a Persian proverb I think I first heard when I was about 18, and it's stuck with me ever since. 18 no more, as all can see. And the proverb goes like this. I searched for my God, who I could not see. I searched for my soul, but it eluded me. And then I searched for my neighbor, and I found all three.
Okay.
And isn't that, A, what altruism is totally about? It's about putting the well-being of others ahead of oneself.
Yeah. It's a directional thing, right?
It is.
You can be turned inward.
That's right.
And you can try to find your meaning, or we have to derive meaning from some of our, our essence, our identity, but it's also directing outward. Right?
Exactly so.
Bring it down to earth for a minute. You and I can go way high on this, but when we talk about altruism in different places around the globe, do you have any insight on different cultures that?
Well, I do. First place, we can see that there's something very important about altruism because all of the world's religions seem to enshrine it. Yeah. Name a world religion, and altruism is part and parcel of its belief system,
even to others.
That's right. Even it's almost cosmology, we could say. And I think we have some fans in the world of, say, the Good Samaritan, for instance, which of course comes to mind as a great example of altruistic behavior. On the other hand, world religions, grew up in conjunction with agriculture and the rise of cities, and with those things came systemic inequality. Yeah. And the human pattern prior to that, in what would be known as local religions, those that didn't go on and grow legs and move to the world stage, local religions kind of seem to have made what we call altruism just part and parcel of everyday reality. Yeah, in fact, you know what? The traditional human economic engine was something known as reciprocity, which is basically a kind of gift giving in which everyone assures that everyone seems to have enough and is taken care of within the group.
And then, well, tonight, with this, with MedWish and with the skull reconstruction, I mean, you're talking about people who are finding that meaning. I like the fact that in the company that does the skull reconstruction, these are people that have art degrees, right? Yeah. I mean, these are people that are responding to their own creativity in ways that are helping others, that are making. That's right. It's a big issue, and I'm sure we're going to have you back to talk about it some more. Thank you, Dr. Dave.
Thank you. It's an important issue. Glad to be able to speak on it a little bit.
Thank you. Back now with some social media in just a few seconds. Back now with Kathleen Colin, our social media expert. How's it going?
Hi, Luke. Awesome.
Excellent. Did we hear anything fun? Or actually, before we get into that, why should I look at my healthcare providers and want to follow them? When you talked about that at the beginning of the show, I was like, well, why would I want to do that?
We do have a blog post up online about some of the top reasons you should follow your healthcare provider online at neotropolis.org. One of the main reasons is you can get real health information. There's so much misinformation on the internet. Here's real information, real doctors, real health institutions. Also, you can see some interesting stuff. Many hospitals are putting operations and surgery live online on Facebook.
I did hear that, and it was really fascinating to think that you could be in there in the OR, right?
Exactly.
But I mean, tell me a story. Do you have a story about how that actually, or social media worked with the healthcare system?
Well, for me personally, for example, I was having trouble getting an appointment at the Cleveland Clinic. I was getting quite irritated. I took my complaints to their Facebook wall and was contacted with a solution immediately.
Well, all right, so that's response time right there.
Yeah, there's a reason right there.
All right, let's get to a couple of these real quick.
We have some fun comments tonight. When we ask people about what they're doing with health, AC says, according to his girlfriend, watching episodes of ER gets her heart going. George Clooney.
So the heart health, good.
And Chris Strathman brings up an interesting point that we didn't talk about. He's into meditation for keeping up with his health. So you can see these comments, and one more good one from Lisa Martinez. Love her Michael Pollan quote, eat food, not too much, mostly plants to stay healthy. You can see these comments and more on our Facebook and Twitter accounts.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And how can people stay involved during the week?
As usual, you can stay in touch all week. We'd love to hear your thoughts, ideas. On Facebook.com/Neotropolis TV, on Twitter at Neotropolis, on Google Plus at Neotropolis, and of course the old-fashioned way via email, info@neotropolis.org.
Excellent. We definitely want people to use social media, connect with the show, be a part of it. Tonight we had all kinds of talk about meaning, thirsting for meaning. Social media is a part of how we connect with our world and the meaning there.
Right, and we want, we love story ideas, and we do feedback. We're real people here. We'll get back to folks.
Excellent. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thanks, Luke.
Appreciate that. You know, all this talk about doing good, supplying water and medical supplies where needed, designing repairs for traumatic injuries, it makes me wonder, is doing good always about benefiting others? Lifetimes ago, I was a social worker who dealt with neglected kids. I was the guy who showed up after somebody decided your family needed help. It wasn't very welcomed either. But only in the last few years has it occurred to me that in many respects, I choose that work because it was about my need to look and feel good as much as anything. Did I end up helping others? I think so. But the gut check for me is that I was putting my needs right out front too and expecting accolades for it. What this makes me think of is the suggestion of doing good for others without getting found out. It's probably a deeper version of the good. Then it's not about the credit or the need that I filled. Of course, others will know sometimes. Nothing wrong with that. But not getting found out makes it cleaner somehow. Let me tell you something good I did. Well, forget it. Never mind. Thanks for joining us on NEOtropolis this week, but never fear, the miracle of technology provides 24/7 access to this and every episode at neotropolis.org. I'm Luke Frazier. We'll be back next week with another NEOtropolis episode. We'll take a look at how boundaries and borders can blur and what it means to be a refugee in Northeast Ohio. So stay in touch during the week. Connect with us on social media. We're glad you've joined us on NEOtropolis, and we will see you next week.
Funding for NEOtropolis has been provided by the following.
I've scored major motion pictures. I've written music for cartoon shows. I play in a band called Devo. So while you may not know my name, you probably know my music. And if my music moved you, thank the place that moved me, Kent State University. Because if you've seen my work, you've seen their work. My name is Mark Mothersbaugh, and I'm a proud alum of Kent State University.
The John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, supporting transformational ideas that promote informed and engaged communities.